starts out every 18 months. And most of the time, when I sign on at the same body, so nothing.
You want to set up a time for next week to do it?
I like to spend time.
Or this week? We can do it this week, I can do it tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay, well,
It's fun, it's a fun hobby.
I've got therapy time the next day. Tomorrow's Tuesday.
I reckon that's the corner.
I'll be home tomorrow afternoon,
See who I miss.
you know, after therapy.
Gwen.
From 9 to 10.
Okay.
Right.
Can I just text you tomorrow, or you can text me and let me know when you're.
Yeah, well, I'll be there, I'll be home about 10:30 anyway, so you can come anytime after that.
Okay.
If you want to, just call me when you're on your way.
Oh, I don't.
But I'll just be doing something there at home. I think I might stay home. I've been back and forth to Nashville about every other day, it seems like. I just got back today. I came home. I went to your came home Saturday, went back Sunday.
Well, I've seen that. I pulled up to see everybody seen that
That's
stuff.
what I was finding. And so I did that Saturday night. And
We
we
should
just
break
waited
the middle
until
part.
Sunday.
Right.
Like, to kill mockingbird. And I was not gonna say, right, and boy, am I ever glad I did. It was truly nice.
Was it?
Yes, yes, it was. And you know, it's been so long since I've seen the movie. And
I didn't
they,
but my mom could be
I
very.
really didn't know what, I mean, I knew what's gonna happen this year.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'll call our call meeting to order. The specific purpose for this call meeting was to consider a problem we've got over on Linden Street, just across the walking trail headed out toward the school on the left. You might see the barrels and things. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at that or look at it since it's happened? And that's what we're here for tonight. We've got an estimate that was given to us by Ford Construction. I believe every one of you have received a copy of that via email as well. But that is for an emergency culvert repair on Linden Street, and that's what they're estimating it's gonna cost. Now, Josh, they looked at it and then you talked about running it down and using the property and running it to the ditch from about the location where it's at,
Yes,
off the edge of the road.
yes, sir.
Would that be any cheaper than this estimate, or is that what this estimate
That's what
is?
that estimate is. He estimated it a lot larger sum to run down the Sugar Road because of the depth.
Okay. Will we have, when he repairs it back, will we have a storm air drain or a catch basin of some kind to catch water
What'll,
to drain it?
there will be an actual roadside catch basin like a lot of places. That main catch basin looks like the manhole lid. It will come out of that, and then they're gonna put an actual, the wing walls and everything on the end of it, at the end, and then exit it out with some riprap and stuff down to the main ditch.
You're saying it's less likely to wash out again?
Yes, well, what's happening, and I know most of y'all are familiar with this, the bottom of the pipe is eroded out over time, it's a metal pipe, and the water gets out under it, and it just pulls that dirt down. And I got down in there myself, which I didn't have my phone to take some pictures of what was inside of it, but I got down there, as far as I could see, the whole bottom was eroded out. And so go ahead.
Josh, with this just being a 36-inch pipe, why can't we do it?
It's about 14 foot deep, right there. Like we talked about, and like I talked about with the contractor, getting that deep, we're gonna have to shore out anyway. Even if we wanted to rent a machine, we don't have the trench box, and I'm just really, we can't flowable fill, I don't have the means to flowable fill the old line to abandon it either way. And I just think it's a lot larger liability getting that deep if something were to happen to somebody. You never know what you're gonna run into when you get that deep.
Right.
Especially where there's already water that's been eroding out material anyway. You don't know exactly how far back you're gonna have to go or what the soil is gonna be like anyway.
I actually spoke with Bo this afternoon about this thing and got his opinion about, whether it's an emergency, what constituted an emergency. And just a few minutes ago, we went by there and I actually got out and I initially was on the sidelines about whether it was an emergency situation or not, but as I look at it, it's actually undercutting the road already. And if we have many big rains, it's gonna undercut that road and eat them out. And we'll have a situation where we will have to block off lanes of traffic fully, and it will endanger our full road. If we got some more of those heavy flooding rains like we've had in the past. And if you look, you see this thing's already
It's
eroded away a lot
And like
undercut.
Mayor's saying, once, now where we are with it being a hole, if we do get more rain, the water just runs right off in it. So not only is it not getting out of it, it's kind of just running off and it creates more of a area that's just gonna erode out more and more.
Can I ask a couple of questions? First question, Lee, what's the other two companies that bid on this or did they?
Well, I didn't have anybody else show up. And I talked to Ryan Knight that's been doing our cleanup stuff. And he said he was interested in maybe turning a bid on another project, but he didn't have the time right now. And then I talked to Bam in Gleason about them coming. Boots said he would come, but he said they were so tied up right now, it was hard for him to
So
come.
this wasn't put out on bid, it's put out word of mouth for you.
Just asking for them to come look at it and provide a quote.
Let me ask you something else. Is this problem got anything to do with the other side of the road over there that's been caved like that for 6 months? We just haven't paid attention to it?
No, sir. What happened on the other side of the road was actually a sewer line that runs into a different manhole had collapsed where we had dug that up.
Kind of strange, ain't it?
And, well, Ford was gonna patch that other spot for us whenever they come back and patch. That's really all we're waiting on the other side is the patchwork and the sidewalk. But when you get, and I wish I'd had my phone with me when I went down in there, but I was on a harness and left there. But it's just like the pipe that we're running into, problem with Long Road, just bottom of that metal pipe.
I did look at that on the other side, and it was where it went into the manhole, it was pulling dirt into the manhole, into the sewer system. And we're lucky we didn't have a stop-up situation with it, because the line had broke loose that fed into the manhole itself.
Yeah, actually, the main sewer line.
Yeah. So,
Seemed like it like, when was it we paved Linden Street? For a couple, 3 years ago?
That section.
2 years ago, but we didn't come across the walking trail at that point in time.
Okay.
What kind of pipe are they going back?
They're going back with a double wall
Like,
plastic, smooth inner liner,
Yeah.
rigid outside the double wall. He told me that we didn't have to use the gray, which I know you're familiar with the gray being for under roadway and stuff. He said we could use the black because of the being outside of the roadway, which is a little cheaper pipe, which you know. That's what I do.
I'm looking at some of these figures on here. I looked at that dead tree today, and the price that he's got for taking down that dead tree. That's something y'all could very easily do right there. $1,800 saving. You just don't get an estimate and say, well, here, do it.
Yeah,
If it's emergency, we'll have to vote, but, how many other places, surprises are we gonna have like this, about this whole system caving in? It seemed like it was brought up about not enough attention being paid for stuff like this right here. Do y'all have any other things that we can expect to surprise, like this $100,000 surprise of 73?
I hope not.
this 100,000 is down there by Bone Brothers. That pipe down there that did the same thing.
which is gonna have to be fixed.
It was
pretty
put in
soon.
the 60s, and
That's
If
been
you
an
say that-
ongoing, that's been an ongoing process for at least a couple of years.
it's been 2 years, and we haven't done it. We've cambered it, we've looked at it, we've inserted a liner into across the street over there to take care of that side of it, but we haven't got across on that side because it's gonna have to be dug basically all the way along that curve from Bone Brothers northeast boundary line all the way down to the ditch towards Sam Bones place down
I know
and
we,
fade into that ditch.
I know we've talked about that before, that's kind of a fine line there that's.
And
even.
that's what this $104,000 is for that.
Where's this money gonna come from?
This would come out of since it's not a sewer project, it come out of the general fund. And, but I'd suggest we not take up the 100 something. This needs to be bid for sure.
Well, we didn't put
Yeah,
that
no.
over a year or so ago.
Yeah.
That's in the past.
But we haven't done any bids on it as such. But the reason I called Bo this afternoon, I wanted to make sure he was clear on and what constituted an emergency repair to get outside of bids and what didn't. And he said if it constituted a loss to somebody's damage, property, or if it resulted in lane closures and things like that, which this very well could, as I look at it this afternoon, gave it a closer look, took photos of it. Couple of good rains, we could have it undercutting that road enough that it becomes an emergency. It's not to say that we might not could get by and say, all right, we're gonna give you 10 days to get your bid in. We advertise it, we send it out, but that's really would be pushing it and to get that done. And
I realize it's coming out of the general fund,
yes,
but is this gonna have any negativity to us? I know we're gonna have a meeting with the architect and the general superintendent contractor. Is it gonna have any negative contract on building our city hall, police and fire departments back as far as money coming out of the correct place?
my personal opinion is no, and let me tell you why. As I look at the budget for this last year, we really did well with the city, and we saved a lot of money that was budgeted that we didn't spend. Believe it or not, even with the tornado, we had a surplus of revenue over expenditures. But one of the reasons why is we didn't spend a lot of things, and some of the things got pushed off over into this next fiscal year. You know, we amended the budget the other night, and some of that money that was left over came out to do paving down at the park and other little projects that we didn't get to during the last fiscal year. But it wasn't a tremendous amount. If you recall that we actually amended the budget to pull out of the surplus funds. So my personal opinion is we've got enough money out of the surplus funds that we had last year that was left over from the budget that was gonna build our excess revenue over expenditures that we could do this project right here.
Let me ask you something, I know 2 or 3 months ago, and I don't remember where it is, because we had discussed something, and you had said something about some emergency funds. It wasn't from FEMA, didn't have anything to do with some kind of state grant to where that, I don't know whether you call it emergency or what. It seemed like we discussed it at that meeting and it just died. Am I wrong, or was I have another?
Do you recall? I don't recall, but in the last 6, 7, 8 months, we've talked about some much emergency funds and everything. I don't know that there is some funding like where that tree fell and broke that water line on the night of the storm. Things like that, we have got some reimbursement from FEMA on that. There are some other things that happened, like up at the where the storage site was for the water tank. FEMA's going to provide funding to rehabilitate that entire parking lot where all that stuff was. There's going to be new asphalt, new gravel, new asphalt put on it, and even on Jones Street where those heavy trucks ran and broke that up. That's some money we're going to get from FEMA to help us with that as well. So there's some things like that come along. There are some maybe by the time of our regular meeting, I will have recalled what we were talking about. But there are a lot of different things for emergency sources of funds, but I don't specifically recall a grant right on that right now. But not that you couldn't have run something through.
Now, we're going to get FEMA help on the rebuilding of the
Yes, ma'am.
that stuff too.
We will
right?
get
And
some
then-
help from
And then
FEMA.
there might be other areas of other places of funding that we would get from.
FEMA, and Jennifer, you correct me if I'm wrong, but we got about $1 million out of insurance funds for the destruction of the fire department, city hall, and the police department. Now, they look at that and they look at what the total cost of the rebuild is.
Right.
to the pre-storm conditions. So they're gonna look at that, what it would cost to rebuild what we had pre-storm. And if we don't have enough insurance, they would come up to the pre-storm level. Is that sort of what you remember? But we're not looking at a huge pot of money now, and it's not gonna be, but we are gonna get some money. There's gonna be some money come for the mitigation of, putting a safe room inside that city home.
Yes.
We can get money for a grant from FEMA too, to put storm sirens up as part of a mitigation. So that's some of the things that we're talking about with them. But,
Jeff, this being so deep and being a hazard for folks, I wanna make a motion that we go with Josh's recommendation with Ford.
and I got a second by Alderman Parker.
Because I know about OSHA and everything else. That way, if they don't have it shored up right, they have to deal with OSHA if something happens.
And I can assure y'all, if there's something that I think we can do, I mean, I'll let you know, we've done a lot of little projects that we're in our realm, but something like this is just it's a little too, I just don't want to risk anybody getting down in there.
If with it being 14 foot deep, if it was 6, 7 foot deep, that's a different
If
story.
it was head high, we would do it, I promise you, but with that being like, and not knowing what kind of soil you're going into, it's very dangerous.
I agree with that.
That would cost us more in the long run if somebody got down in there and got hurt real bad, healed, God forbid,
We would.
than what this will, so.
Plus, we'd be subject to OSHA fines and all of that for not having the proper equipment to do the
Right.
shoring and safety protection. With us contracting that work done, all of that's all on the contractor. You'll have to show proof that he's got the workers' comp and all of that. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we've got a motion and second to go with the $73,236 estimate, and I stress estimate from Ford Construction, and if there's things that we can do that, like maybe getting that tree cut out of the way and things like that. That,
And he did tell me in that quote that some of those numbers are the max of what he's expecting. So it's not that all those numbers are set in stone. There could be, if they use less material, that price number will come down. He said, some of those prices you don't know till you get there. And he said, but this is where our cap is.
Well, they still work with us though.
Yeah, and you know, Ford's always been good about it. So. And the way he talked, they could move just as soon as we got approval, they could go ahead and get started.
I would like to see to us put a little bit of pressure on them to get that road across the street fixed about the same time they're finishing up this and asphalting on it. And I'm still concerned. I went out yesterday and looked at the old 22 bridge where there's that 33C gravel still on it. It would be good if they could get that fixed and get some of these little projects that, like that they're obligated to do already, so. All right. If you would call the roll, please, ma'am.
Cobb,
Yes,
Lutz,
Yes.
Moore,
I'll abstain. You got 3 here, so I'll abstain from voting on this.
Parker.
Yes.
We got 3, so it's approved, and, thank y'all, and I understand Alderman Moore why you're concerned. It should be a concern of everybody, if we can save money, we also try to do it. And, I'm gonna trust that Josh will keep an eye on that and try to make sure that those things happen correctly. And if there's any way we can save money, let's do that. I was real skeptical about this being a no bid situation. But when I went and looked at it, saw how it was undercutting the current street, it's not gonna, if it went very long, in one huge rain, we could potentially lose half of the street.
and you've got kids walking back and forth going to school, one of them falls in it,
And we check
It's
it,
a
we
big
check it,
license,
we
big,
check
big
it
officer.
multiple times a day, making sure the barrels are up. Sometimes I come in at night and check it, just to make sure nothing's been on the weekends. If Hunter goes down there $50 to check, make sure that everything's, we're trying to keep it as barricaded off as we can for safety.
Just give y'all a little update, they did finish this last week cleaning up on Jones Street up with the water tower, everything up there is cleaned up.
What about the 10 that goes for it?
That belongs to, Todd Gavin. It's coming off the warehouse. That's nothing that belongs to anything we haul up there. But they're actually gonna haul that to metal recyclers where they're gonna haul it. They hauled a bunch of the red iron off today from that warehouse. The red iron's the structural iron. But they're gonna get that tin that's pulled up there where we were operating and take it to recycler too. If somebody doesn't walk off with it, Jennifer and I went up there Saturday night, I guess it was, or Friday night, just to see what it looked like. There was a fellow up there barring some of the tin. I'm sure he had a good, I'm sure he had a good use for it, but.
Anything metal.
Yeah, but they have set up and got ready to go out at the sand pit out behind the FedEx thing. And we drove out there a few minutes ago where our pile is still burning out there. And if you've been out there and looked, we've got a lot of new stuff that's come in. As a matter of fact, when we was out there about 26, a few minutes ago, there was another truck. Ray Harper's lands, they're cutting, he had 40 something trees down and wanted to know if he could put it out there. And I said, sure. And we're gonna measure it and do the same thing. I don't know if you're aware, but the city gets reimbursement for what we hauled up in the vegetative debris. So that's going to count against our 5% that on hauling all of the construction debris. We could potentially not be out any costs if we had enough. And we hauled a lot, and it's still coming in, even with this, it counts against our totals. We'll measure all of that before it's burned and track, yes, it is.
What about that land down there across from Q-Line, kind of, where all the trees are down and it's such a mess?
Yeah, we asked the owners of those, Ann Stevens is one of them, what's the other? Donald Perkins is the other one. And they own the middle of that woods. And I had written them a letter back in January asking them to check with the pulp cutter, so they would maybe cut that for pulp, and they never had done it. But all of those trees are still down in there. And the longer they're down, the less they're worth to anybody. Somebody might get in there and cut it up for firewood. Awful lot of it on the ground.
Also, that guy that was wanting the tin, see, we'll take the trees and like,
There's still places where
I
pieces
know.
of metal were up in the top of trees.
Yes, there
I
is.
know that, I said that.
But things have gone well to clean up. We still have 3 houses on the ground that were down after the payment deadline they gave us. I've talked to Bob Spellings again, and he's working with Mr. Morgan to get his hauled away. Gwen has made arrangements for his to be hauled away, and a lot of that's just waiting for all of our stuff to sort of get out of the way. And our contractor's gonna do some of that private work too for some of these folks after they're completely done with the city.
They seem to be pretty good guys.
He is. Ryan Knight is a great guy.
That's another thing I was gonna say, Ryan, and when they moved their track hoe out to the sand pit area, Ryan had, his the landfill was, they were in a little slow period, and didn't even take anything. He's been piling up that brush for us, so we didn't have to go around a machine to do it. He's been
It was-
piling all that up.
It was piled up when we were out there a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and they've done a lot of little stuff like that, just on their own, that, it's saved us
Just a head,
money.
that's good.
Yes, he's been a wonderful guy to work with. He really has, and he saved us a ton of money in this city. But then,
And they're eating out every day all over town.
if he catches you, he'll buy you lunch, too.
Yeah, if he sees you down at the deli, he will.
Thank y'all for being here tonight.
Josh, do you have a kind of water leak from Jack?
Say, I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
We went out there. Just
Well, I've moved,
somebody
I've
needed
moved
some
and
water.
moved, I've got all
Out
of
on
them.
Red Hill Road.
I've got more than I need up there,
And
but
water
I pray there's so much more that I have to go.
I'm not where I'm going years ago.
No, it's just not a whole lot of places.